I broke my yarn buying ban, so I'm basically just making this video so I can go on and on about how excited I am. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Josie Violet and this is Josie Violet Knits, and today, as we're getting into the depths of winter, I thought I would take you through my knitting plans. These are kind of to start off my 2026. I feel like I'm probably not going to get to any of these until the new year because I've got a few whips that I really am desperate to get finished before the end of the year. So these are my new year, new me, new knitting plans. I'm going to be casting quite a lot of things on. I've got a test knit going on. I broke my yarn buying ban for a very, very fun Colorwork sweater, which I'll talk to you about. And yeah, I feel like I've got a lot of plans, so I wanted to go through them with you all today. My first plan, and one that is probably going to have to be a priority because it's a test knit, so there's a deadline, is the Wavelength cardigan by Be Creative Knits. As soon as I saw this cardigan, I knew that I had to knit it. It is a stunning wavy cabled cardigan. I feel like this is quite different to traditional cable sweaters and cardigans where, you know, there's a range of motifs and it's all quite intricate and complex. This is very, very simple. It's just a wave, but the way that Bee has designed it is so smart. On the shoulder, the wave goes down where the shoulder creates the drop shoulder and turns into a wave. And that is just so smart. It has a little collar. There is an option in the pattern to knit just a regular folded collar instead of a polo collar. So I still haven't decided yet if I want to do the folded collar or the polo collar. I don't know if polos are necessarily my favorite, but I think I'm just going to decide on that when I get there. But yeah, I'm so excited to get started. I decided for this one that I want to use yarn that is in my stash. So I've had this yarn in my stash for quite a while, and this is the Heavy Merino by Knitting for Olive in the shade Dusty Artichoke. And I originally bought this to knit the Upstream sweater by Rose Knitwear, which I have the Rose Knitwear book, and it's just been something I've been wanting to knit for a while, but I just haven't got round to it. And I still would like to knit this sweater at some point, but there's just something that's been not necessarily putting me off, but just, I don't know, I wasn't as super excited about it. So I think I'm going to be fine to reuse this yarn for the cardigan. This yarn is actually one of the recommended yarns in the pattern, so it kind of makes sense for me to just use something that's in my stash. It's been sitting around for a while, and I'm sure if I want to knit the Upstream sweater, I can find something else to use for that in the future. So that's what I'm going to do, and it meant I didn't have to spend any money, which was great. I did also consider potentially using, as you can probably see behind me, I've got this massive stash of purple cardigan that I got as part of I got a gift card for my birthday, and I used it on just buying loads of this purple cardigan because this is one of my favorite colors. And so I was thinking maybe I could use this, and I had bought this pearl grey Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair to go with it because I felt like the colours would go really nicely together, and I was quite excited about it. But then I knitted up a swatch, and I don't know if you can see, but the pearl grey was kind of coming through in a sort of weird way that I didn't really like. And I think this has kind of been a lesson for me I have heard people say before that lighter coloured mohair with sort of a darker shade of the regular merino or whatever you're pairing it with doesn't always look that good, and I didn't really understand why, but I think after doing this swatch I do understand. It's like the white core of the soft silk mohair just comes through. It almost looks a bit like stringy, or like, I don't know, it just kind of it's not like a nicely blended effect. I also felt like the mohair's fluffiness was kind of taking away from the impact of the cables. So I decided, once I did this little swatch, because once I got a certain way in, I kind of knew it wasn't working, so I just gave up and pound off this tiny little swatch. And then I was like, okay, well, clearly Bee knows what she's talking about, and there's a reason why the Heavy Merino is a recommended yarn. And I haven't actually finished the swatch yet, but you get the idea. It looks really good. I love how it's looking. It, you know, because it doesn't have the fluffiness, it kind of just draws more attention to the cables, and I do just love the shade. Like, it's quite simple. I feel like it will go with a lot of things, because obviously with a cardigan you can usually see what's underneath, so you kind of need a colour that will go with a lot of other things you have in your wardrobe. I'm on the Instagram group for the test knit. A lot of people have already gotten started with their project, and I'm so excited to get started. I am going to try and finish my port jacket and my Maggie cardigan whips that I have already going on. I'm determined to get them finished before the end of the year so that I can start the new year with almost no whips. I'll still have my seashore skirt whip, which is lurking in the background. I do just love being part of a test knit. It really feels like a real community experience, and it's kind of just interesting seeing how it all works and how the process goes, and obviously there are like changes that need to be made along the way, and yeah, it's just a very intriguing, fun experience, I find. My next project that I have planned, this is what I broke my yarn buying ban for. I bought loads and loads and loads of pig in lots of different colours because I want to make the Sweet Dream sweater by Kylie Noel. And as soon as I saw this sweater, I just knew that I had to knit it. And there was one version of this sweater that I saw in the test knit in particular that made me really, really want to knit it. And it was quite a low contrast version of this sweater. I feel like when I've knitted Colorwork before, I've always gone for quite high contrast between the darks and the lights because I want my Colorwork to show up with my haze sweater and my rosy sweater. Both of them had quite a high contrast between dark and light. And that can be really nice, especially if you have quite a simple design or, you know, a design in one part of the sweater. But I think for me, because this is an all over Colorwork sweater, I think I want to tone it down a bit. I still want to have lots of different colours in there, and I want it to be fun. I mean, obviously you can't really tone this down too much because it is quite a all over design. But I think by toning down the value a little bit and making the difference between the darks and the lights not quite as intense, it kind of brings the whole thing together and kind of makes it feel a bit more cohesive and like just not quite so in your face. So I think that is my plan. I have done some swatches. Let me grab some of the yarns. I mean, I've got a lot of yarns, so I'll see how many I can grab. Okay, so I think this probably covers most of the colours that I've got. My base colour that I'm going to be using for the neckband, the hem and the cuffs and kind of throughout the pattern is this marzipan shade. It's kind of a beigey, browny, marzipan-y shade. Is quite simple and neutral, and then I felt like that would be a good base to go in with all the different colours that I've chosen. I think, I mean, I wouldn't say these are like super low contrast. I mean, this brown and this blue are quite dark. Sorry about the lighting, guys. It is really weird weather today. It's going like really sunny and then really cloudy. So yeah, I have basically just a lot of colours. Pastel-y, I would say like muted tones. These are mainly the Petite Knit Pig and shades. I just love her shades. They're just so good. I have started doing a swatch, but I think I'm going to change a few things from this swatch. I felt like it was getting a bit too brown here, so I think I'm going to change these flowers to more of a purple. I'm also going to take out a couple of rows of some of the Colorwork because I don't want it to be super cropped, but I also don't love it when the sleeves are the same length as the body. I like the sleeves to be a little bit longer than the body. So I think in order to do that, I'm going to have to take out a couple of rows of Colorwork just for my own personal preference. So I think I'm going to take out this initial row here. And yeah, I'm just loving playing around. It's so fun to sort of experiment with all these different colours, see how I like the low contrast, because here you can see it's very low value contrast and I'm like, is that too low contrast or is it okay? Kylie has a colouring in chart on the pattern. I have checked with her. She said she's fine with me to share this just coloured in version of the chart. You can't really figure out what's going on anyway, but this is my basic design of what I'm going for. Now this is a bottom up sweater and it also starts with a tubular bind off. So as you can imagine, it's quite an oversized sweater. It's on, I think, 4.5mm needles. That's quite a lot of stitches that I'm going to have to cast on a tubular cast on, which I have done before on a button band for about 12 stitches. This is multiple hundreds of stitches that I'm going to have to cast on, so that is going to be a bit of a challenge, I think. I am just getting my head around the tubular cast on, but doing it for that many stitches is going to be a bit of a challenge. I guess the benefit is that you don't have to bind off the body at the end because you're doing it the other way around. So that is the only benefit I can see, and I guess once I'm started and once I've got it going, it will be fine. It's just that idea of having to cast on in a tubular cast on that many stitches does slightly scare me, but I'm gonna take it on as a challenge, and once I'm going, I think it'll be okay, because then once you're doing bottom up, it's just for quite a long time you're just not doing any sort of shaping or anything, it's just straight up color work. So I think that will be fun. I do think having something to knit that's really colourful in the winter would be really nice to get through that kind of depressing season of time. And I also feel like these colours are quite spring vibes, so I think it will be, with all the flowers and stuff, I think it'll be really nice to have this ready for spring, because spring in the UK is usually still freezing, so I think having a big chunky sweater is perfectly fine in the spring. So I hope I'll get this finished around springtime. That would be nice. The next thing I want to talk about is my super basic tee by I Want to Knit. I did mention this in a podcast probably a few months ago now. I got this stunning yarn called Albertine by Durarum Natura. I have used Durarum Natura's Gilead before in my Lakes pullover that I'm currently wearing, and I love this yarn. This is one of my favourite makes I've ever made, so if this Albertine holds up to what I consider to be the quality of this Gilead, I'm very excited to knit this. Now, this is a fingering weight project. This is going to take me a long time, but basically my idea was I just want a basic white t-shirt. Now this yarn isn't quite white, it's kind of like a pinky shade, like a pinky beigey white, but I absolutely love it. And because I'm knitting so many cardigans at the moment, I thought it would be really nice to have a t-shirt that is also hand knitted that I can wear underneath them. And look how good those look together. That will be so nice to have this as the cardigan and this is the t-shirt underneath. And I feel like it kind of just goes with everything that I'm planning. I do think also this will be a good, because obviously the wavelength cardigan and the Sweet Dream sweater are quite complex. There's quite a lot of charts to be reading. So I think it will be really nice to just have quite a simple stockinette in the round project that is going to go for a long time. This will be something that I can take to knit night, something that I can just knit mindlessly when I'm watching the TV or something. I think it's important to have one of those projects at all times. So that is kind of my plan for that, and I'm so excited to get started. I've had it on my shelf for quite a few months now, and every so often I just walk past and just squish it and I'm like, it just feels so soft and so nice and bouncy, and I just can't wait to have this. I think this is going to take me quite a long time, so I think this will be a good one to have, you know, as we're going into spring, and then eventually as you get into sort of the warmer months, being able to just wear this by itself, because it is merino. Oh, I didn't say this is 90% wool and 10% silk, so it is still going to be a bit warm. It's not going to be like a summer t-shirt, but I think it will definitely be wearable in the UK summer where it doesn't really get that hot anyway. So yeah, I'm very excited for that as well. There's so much that I'm just so hyped and excited, and I'm like, it's sustaining me to get through my whips, because I don't want to cast anything on until I have finished 2 of my whips. And yeah, so I'm basically just making this video so I can go on and on about how excited I am. Now, another thing, now this is kind of like a stretch goal, and to be honest, probably isn't going to get done on top of everything else I have going on, but I really love the Gwynver sweater by the Knit Pearl Girl. It hasn't actually come out yet, but I've been sort of patiently waiting. Every time she posts, I'm just like loving all the samples that she's been knitting. It is just a stunning cabled sweater. It is quite detailed and intricate, but I still feel like quite wearable. I think this could be a good contender for my massive stash of purple yarn. I think it could look really nice in Peer Gynt. I probably would have to hold it with something else, because I don't think it's quite heavy enough weight. So I'm considering maybe, if I do knit this, ordering some unicorn purple by Knitting for Olive in the soft silk mohair, because I think it's almost a perfect match for this yarn. And I think, even though, as I was saying, like with cables, sometimes you don't want to have the fuzziness of mohair because it kind of distracts from it a little bit, I also think that's fine if that's what you want to go for. And I think with maybe this sweater being like all over cables, maybe having that mohair to kind of blend them in a little bit more, almost like how I was saying with the values of the Sweet Dream sweater. I think it kind of just depends on what your intentions are, whether you want to like lean into a specific aspect, or if you want to tone down a specific aspect. Like if the design's quite complex, maybe sometimes you actually want to tone that down or bring it up, depending on what you want to do. But I think having that intention from the offset, and like knowing that that's why you're using it, I think it's something I've been thinking about lately. Yeah, having a bit more sort of intention of, okay, what do I want to achieve from this, and using the swatches to kind of figure out, does this actually look good or do I not like this? I think that's kind of the mindset that I'm going to be approaching some of these projects on, because as I learned from this swatch, sometimes something you think is going to work just isn't going to work. And then yes, other things will surprise you, and I do think swatching is like the perfect way to kind of combat some of those issues before you start knitting. So this is my PSA for everyone out there who doesn't like knit engaged swatches. I actually think not just for getting engaged, I think they're useful for just seeing what your project is going to look like before you start. And I think that's quite useful, because if you're knitting a massive jumper or a massive sweater, you kind of want to know what it's going to look like before you get started. So anyway, that's just my little ramble about that. So yeah, the Gwynver sweater is a bit of a stretch goal. I don't know if I'm going to get it done in the winter, but it would be something I would like to do at some point. And yeah, go check it out when it launches. I think it's supposed to be coming out before the end of the year. So yeah, go check out the Gwynver sweater if you like the look of this one. Another thing that I would like to do, again, I don't know how realistic this is with everything else I have going on, but if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know what happened with my Daydreamers cardigan. This was a cardigan that I knit quite when I was new to knitting, and I used the wrong gauge. I had like super bulky plus fingering when it was supposed to just be an Aran weight, and I just ended up with like a really thick material. I had a few mistakes, and it's half fisherman's rib, so it was really hard to fix those mistakes, and I just ended up frogging it. So now I have loads and loads of this Rico mohair. It's called the Rico Fashion Mohair, Merino Mohair Chunky or something. And do you know what I want to do with this? I want to make a scarf, because it is so soft. I feel like this will make a really nice chunky scarf, and it will just be like a pop of colour. It's quite a bright coral pink, which is kind of a bit, I don't usually wear such bright colours, but I feel like for a scarf it will be like a nice pop of colour. So I want to do the Berlin scarf by Susan Mueller. I have loved this scarf for a long time. It's a very popular scarf. I'm sure you've heard of it before. But yeah, there's quite a lot of other stuff going on, so who actually knows? But I do want to reuse this yarn into something, because otherwise it just feels like a massive waste. I bought this yarn in Berlin, and yeah, I just really want to use it for something and actually have it instead of just having it sitting around my house. And then finally, I do want to knit some socks. I have the J-Wool Superwash yarn in my stash that I bought because I really want to tackle my weird fear of socks that I seem to have developed. I don't know why. I think it's because they're on quite small needles. I'm just weirdly scared of socks. I keep going on about it. I've been telling everyone I'm going to start knitting socks. Haven't got around to it yet. But I am going to get there. I really like the Petal Drop Socks by Florence Miller. Florence's step-by-step sweater was the first thing I ever knit, and because of that I just absolutely love her tutorials. She explains things so well, so I think if there's something I'm scared of, I should definitely do a Florence Miller pattern and follow her tutorial. And she just does such great things for the knitting community. Like I don't think I would be knitting or doing what I am today without her step-by-step sweater video. Like in that video, I learned how to do an Italian bind-off as my first project, and I was just doing that, and learned how to do raglan, learned how to do increases, and I just think her videos are amazing. So I definitely want to do these Petal Drop socks as my first socks, because I trust her to guide me in the right way. So yeah, I think, I don't know, is that like a lot of things, or is that quite a reasonable amount of things? I'm not sure. I think because the wavelength cardigan and the Sweet Dream sweater are quite complex, I haven't added too many other things into the mix, because I think both of those projects are probably going to take me quite a while. And also because the cardigan is a test knit, I want to focus on that to start off with. So yeah, that is everything I had to share with you today. Hopefully I can finish my 2 whips that I'm trying to get finished before the end of the year. One of them I just had to rip back the sleeve because I had the stitch count completely wrong, so that is a bit annoying, but I'm gonna get there. So let me know your winter plans in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Tell me all the details, tell me the yarn, tell me the pattern. I want to know all the details. And if you happen to have this hype button thing down below, could you press it? Apparently that's quite important. I don't really understand what it is. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to go and try and finish some of my whips so that I can get on with all of these plans, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!